So welcome to the celebration of my beloved Harold's life. He always said, I don't want any memorial service when the time comes. Who would come? Well, look at this. On behalf of our entire family, Judah, Nellie, Maren and Nora, Noah and Amira, Jillian and Augustine, Gabe and Dan, on behalf of his brother and sister, Alan and Lois Axe, and Nikki and Len Feldman, and their children and grandchildren, and yes, on behalf of my dear Harold. We are so grateful that you are all here. We all have our way of mourning. Mine is to draw people close, even as we are so separated. I designed the celebration of Harold's life. As I designed it, I wanted to include as many precious souls as I could. You are all so important to me. Each person I invited to participate represents a special relationship, but that doesn't in any way diminish the importance of each and every one of you who has tuned in to support me and my family. All participants know the commentary of our friendship in their heart of hearts. But Jill will introduce each one with the Peshat, the simple basis of why they hold a special place in my heart of hearts. And now I turn this memorial service over to Cantor Jill Abramson, my successor, who has taken the leadership of Shirami and is forging a bright future for our sacred community. I know she will steer the celebration of Harold's life with her unique gifts of grace and wisdom, of passion and compassion, as we say our final farewell to our dear husband, father, grandfather, brother, uncle, healer, adventurer, and friend, my beloved Harold, as we send him on his way to his final destination.
Just a few days ago, Dr. Harold Axe drew his last breath. Gently and peacefully, he made his way into the next holy place. While we grieve his loss amidst the physical distance from one another, we could not be more closely connected today through the love we feel for Harold. We are drawn together by images of his signature smile, his notorious sense of humor, and his unending warmth. We are further linked in admiration and appreciation for Harold's life and all that he accomplished. And while the novel coronavirus may prevent us from embracing one another, we reach out today with our eyes and our hearts to convey our love to Harold's family. As the psalmist reminds us, love is stronger than death, and we will heed those words with every ounce of our being. We are also mindful that in the Jewish calendar, we are in the time of the Omer, that is the time period between Passover and Shavuot. It is a time of heightened spiritual awareness as we count the days from our liberation from slavery to receiving Torah at Mount Sinai. So too, as Harold's life drew toward its end, his devoted and loving family exemplified the spiritual teaching of the Omer. They embraced the journey in all of its turns and found the strength to make each day count. Dear God, bless us today with compassion for Dr. Harold Axe was compassionate. Bless us with joy, for Harold lived a life marked by exuberance and adventure. Dear God, bless us with your radiance, as Harold Axe brought a brilliant light to all he touched. Amen. I invite now Cantor Lainey Katsu to unmute. Cantor Katsu was the very first person Vicki met back in 1979 when she was waiting to be called in for her entrance interview at Hebrew Union College, and they have been dear friends ever since. Cantor Katsu is opening our memorial service this afternoon with Ashrei Hagafrur, Blessed is the Match, a poem by Hannah Senish, set to music by Cantor Lawrence Avery. Cantor Katsu.
Ashrei Hagafrur shenisra veitzit lehavot. Ashrei alevavot shebe'olam shebara v'sitrei levavot. Ashrei sheyadu lachadol b'chod. Ashrei Hagafrur shenisra veitzit lehavot. Blessed is the match consumed in kindling flame. Blessed is the flame that softly burns in a heart's secret place. Blessed the hearts that like flickering lights knew to flutter and die without shame. Blessed is the match consumed in the kindling flame.
Thank you. We continue now with sacred words. I invite David Green to unmute. David Green was the first person Vicki met when he picked her up from the Greenwich train station for her interview at Greenwich Reformed Synagogue back in 1997. He is a past president of Congregation Shir Ami, sings in our choir, and has been a support, mentor, and friend since that first encounter to the Axe family. He's reading a poem by Alvin Fine, which speaks to the highs and lows of life as we journey from birth to death to life everlasting. David.
Birth is a beginning and death a destination, and life is a journey. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom. From weakness to strength, or from strength to weakness, and often back again. From health to sickness, and we pray to health again. From offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, from grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until, not looking backwards or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high point along the way, but in having made the journey step by step, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey.
Thank you, David. We move from sacred words to sacred words. Invite Cantor, Dana, and Nacy to unmute. Cantor and Nacy has been a great source of comfort and friendship to our Vicky. She was ever present when Vicky endured a heart attack back in 2011, and was her go-to clergy for pastoral care when she was not available for her congregants. She will recite Psalm 23, the psalm that has brought comfort to sorrowing hearts for generations.
The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guideth me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
We're so blessed this afternoon and this evening, for those of you overseas, to be in the presence of so many dedicated and talented clergy. I invite now Cantor Dick Botten to unmute. Cantor Richard Botten, Vicky writes, has been her role model and mentor. First, as she ascended to the presidency of the American Conference of Cantors. Cantor Botten is a person of deep faith and compassion, holding her hand, she writes, through these last difficult months. Cantor Botten will offer and chant Psalm 121, the words so familiar to us. I lift up mine eyes to the mountains. What is the source of my help?
Ezri me'im Adonai oseh shamayim va'aretz ad yiten lamot raglecha al yanum shomrecha hinenu la yonum velo yishan Shomer Yisrael, Adonai Shomrecha, Adonai Tzilcha al yad yaminecha, Yom HaShemesh lo yakeka, v'yareach balayla. Adonai yishmorecha mikol ra, ישמור את נפשך, אדוני ישמור צאתך ובואך מעתה ועד עולם.
We thank you, Dick, your voice and your presence, which has mentored and taught so very many of us on this call today. We thank you.
Thank you.
It's an honor now to invite Rabbi Joan Glazer-Farber. Joan, you can unmute. Rabbi Glazer Farber was and continues to be a partner and friend since she and Cantor Axe worked together back in the 90s. She had the privilege of preparing her children for bar and bat mitzvah, and now watches with pride as her two daughters follow in her rabbinic footsteps. She'll be offering a reading from the book of Ecclesiastes. Rabbi.
L'kol zman. There's a time for everything. A time for every experience under heaven. A time for being born and a time for dying. A time for planting and a time for uprooting the planted. A time for destroying and a time for healing. A time for tearing down and a time for building up. A time for weeping and a time for laughing. A time for wailing and a time for dancing. A time for throwing stones and a time for gathering stones. A time for embracing and a time for refraining from embraces. A time for seeking and a time for losing. A time for keeping and a time for discarding. A time for tearing and a time for sowing. A time for silence and a time for speaking. A time for loving and a time for hating. And a time for war, and most of all, a time for peace.
Thank you. We're holding those words in our heart while not being in close proximity allows us a certain distance. Today we are brought closer in some ways with the gifts of the technology. And I want to invite now Vicki and Harold's son Dan to share with us something that we can listen and watch and hold closely in our hearts.
Dan just said, texted me that he lost his net.
Ooh.
And so maybe we should go on to the next. And if he's able to get it back, he'll let us know.
Sounds good. Okay, very good. Thank you, Vicki. So there are many gathered here today who have put together remembrances. I'd like to invite first Susan Nissensweig, co-president of Shir Ami, to offer words of remembrance.
Okay. Hi, everyone. So there are about 320 people on here today. I just want you to know that. So almost 18 years ago, Congregation Shir Ami was founded, and we were like a family from day one. Vicki, our founding cantor and then rabbi, was the mama. And yes, Harold was the papa, who was always there to support the mama. It was always so obvious how much Harold loved Vicki and was so proud of her. Harold was at almost every single event we had, and so all of our congregants had many opportunities to get to know him. We sang, worshiped, ate, celebrated, played games, saw shows, watched sunsets, and partied together for many years and for many memorable occasions. I know that each of our congregants have their own special memories of Harold that they will hopefully share at the virtual Shiva calls. Here are some of my memories. I remember how Harold always sat in that first row at our high holiday services and didn't miss a beat when it was time to transform the Bima as we brought out the Torah. And of course, I can still hear the richness of his baritone voice as he chanted the Haftorah so beautifully on many occasions. I looked forward each year to see what creative and crazy idea Harold came up with for costumes that he and Vicky would wear to our Shirami Purim parties. Trust me when I tell you that every year they managed to outdo themselves, sometimes in a really big way. Harold orchestrated the building of the sukkah each year at their house, which was no easy task because it was a challenging sukkah to put together. The building crew of congregants got pretty good at working together on this project, and Harold always made and served them a homemade, delicious breakfast. It was Harold's breakfast that was really the lure that got everybody up in the morning, bright and early, to build that sukkah. Even as Harold began to lose his ability to speak, he continued to enthusiastically use his cell phone or iPad to share jokes, comments on things, or simply to wish everyone in the room Shabbat Shalom. He clearly felt at home at Shirami, and so many of our congregants stepped up to help him at Shirami and at community events as his needs became more pronounced. We were happy to do that because he was family. Although Harold became more quiet in the last few years, we always knew that he was a great guy with a big heart and an adventurous spirit that continued on despite his challenges. The thing that Harold did the absolute very best was that he created, with Vicky of course, 4 truly wonderful sons. I've known them for probably 24 years now, and my family and I have had the pleasure of having many meaningful connections with each one of them. It's been a joy to see them grow and develop their own interesting lives and create their own beautiful families. I know how much Harold loved his family and was so proud of each one of them. He modeled dedication to family, and his congregation, Shir Ami family, benefited from observing that. With Shir Ami's current shift to online services and classes, we are now only a click away, which is what enabled all of you to join us for this moving memorial service today. We hope to see the Axe family often, and we welcome any of you at our upcoming Zoom services and classes and events. On behalf of our congregation, we wish peace and love to Harold and to each one of his family members. Please know that we are sending you all many virtual hugs, and know that we are always here for your family and always consider you as part of our family. Shabbat Shalom. Not Shabbat Shalom, just Shalom. Thanks.
Thank you, Susan. That was beautiful. Want to invite Harold's niece, Lisa Feldman Green, to continue and offer her remembrances.
Thank you. So I love my Uncle Harold. I was his first niece, his first nephew too. And he was only 16 when I was born. So here I had this young, unmarried uncle who spent a lot of time at our house. I have lots and lots of childhood memories of him. But one in particular was he wanted me to make sure, he wanted to help me learn all my state capitals. So instead of being the kind of uncle that would just quiz me, he would write me letters. I think he was in his residency in Ann Arbor. And he would write me letters, and he would find a way to stick in every capital of every state in these beautiful, beautiful letters. He, as you mentioned earlier, had a great sense of humor. It was a lot of fun. I remember when I was meeting Vicki for the first time, and I was so happy that Uncle Harold gave me a big sister, because I love her like an aunt, but it was just so fun to meet her. And they showed up in matching outfits at our house for that event. They also were married in our house. I had never been to a wedding before, and here they were married in my backyard. And my bat mitzvah was very shortly thereafter. And for my bat mitzvah, they gave me a ticket to fly and visit them in Columbus. So you can imagine, I was 13. I had never been on a plane, certainly by myself. And I thought it was so cool going to Columbus and being on an Air Force base. And they treated me and took me everywhere. But of particular note was the PX store, where we bought so many things that we couldn't fly home. We had to drive back to Cinnaminson, New Jersey. Later on, I have lots of memories of spending time at their home in Manhattan. How cool was it to be a teenager, early 20s, staying at 33rd and 3rd and seeing the beautiful city of Manhattan. I would sleep with the drapes open so I could see all the lights. And Uncle Harold and Aunt Vicki took me to see the Fantastics, and they took me to Greenwich Village, and we had dinner in David's Harp. And it was just a wonderful, wonderful, magical time that I have those memories forever. Years later, I grew up, and I kind of followed in their footsteps, having sons. I have 3 sons, and our sons had the opportunity to visit in Columbus and see the farm and to be at the B'nai Mitzvah. And I'm so glad that my boys knew Uncle Harold, and they're on the call today, and they're hearing the beautiful celebration of his life. I loved him. I will continue to love him, and I was so proud that he was my uncle.
Thank you, Lisa. I want to invite now another niece of Harold, Amy Vaught, to offer some memories.
When I think of Uncle Harold, one of the words that comes to my mind is love. Love of life, love of adventure, love of a joke or a way to lighten the moment, and mostly love of family. This is what my family and I have felt from Uncle Harold: his kindness, his warmth, and his love. I'm not the best with my words or public speaking. I thought it might be the most fitting for me to read something for you. I'm going to show you this book here was a gift from Uncle Harold, and I still hold it so precious to me. It has lasted all of these years, far better than the 3-foot stuffed Snoopy. That was another special birthday present from Uncle Harold. Uncle Harold gave me this book October 20th, 1969 on my 7th birthday, maybe even before he met Aunt Vicki, I believe. And as I read this book, it's short, I promise, just note all the ways that Uncle Harold saw the love in his life. Called So Many Kinds of Love, Cherishing and Sharing All the Love in Life. And you'll see it's inscribed to me, so I still have his handwriting with me. So many kinds of love. Life holds so many kinds of love. Perhaps you've already discovered every one. If you haven't, you will very soon. When your mother tucks you in at night, a special kind of love fills your heart. A father gives you a strong, secure kind of love. He may not tell you that he loves you, but he doesn't need to. You just know. Friendship is another kind of love. It's a happy feeling you get when you are laughing or sharing a secret. And when you spend quiet moments together, you know that love is there too. Love isn't always just for people. When a puppy follows you everywhere, it's your way of showing affection. It's his way of showing affection. Kittens show a warm and trusting kind of love when they're very drowsy and they go to sleep in your arms. Even goldfish need love, especially on rainy days. Sometimes very simple things can mean the world to you, like an ice cold drink of water on a hot summer day, or a warm feather bed on a snowy winter night. Life everywhere is full of things to love. When you see something beautiful, you know you're surrounded by love, and it fills you with wonder. It may be a green meadow that tells you that spring is here, or a big leafy tree that shelters you from the rain, or a sky full of stars on a crisp autumn night. Loving the world around you fills your heart with quiet joy. It makes you grateful that all that love has given you. Someday, a very special kind of love will call you to someone more to you than anyone else in the world. You never know when this will happen. It might be today. When you find someone you love, even the simplest moments together will be filled with happiness. Then you will be very glad there are so many kinds of love and that you have known them all. I'm going to say we love you, Uncle Harold, and we miss you. Thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
I just want to tell you, Jill, and everyone, that Dan is ready. So after Jeff, before Gabe, we'll have the video.
Perfect.
Okay.
And Harold's nephew, Peter Klein, is here. And Peter wanted to invite you to say a few words. Let's see.
I'm sorry, I think that was my feedback. I apologize. Harold would have yelled at me. I'm a bit surprised to read that Uncle Harold was 77 years old. He never seemed old to me. Well, when I was a kid, he seemed old. My brother Jeffrey and I spent a lot of time growing up with the Harold and the Axe family in New York, Connecticut, Ohio, and Connecticut again. My fondest memories come from my summer in New York City after graduating from college. That summer, Harold became my friend. We spent that summer at Yankee games, Second Avenue Deli, and other restaurants talking about Don Mattingly and Bernie Williams, the Gulf War, South Africa, politics, and girls. Well, maybe mostly talking about baseball and girls. You gotta remember, I'm almost 10 years older than Harold's oldest son. This was before Ellie and Amira, and even before Lindsay. Harold really loved being one of the boys and hearing my stories about being a 21-year-old in Manhattan. Our friendship lasted 30 years. He watched me become a father, and I'm convinced some of my parenting comes from watching him be a great dad to Judah, Noah, Gabe, and Dan. I watched him become a grandfather, and never had I seen him happier when he was around his granddaughters. I won't forget the stern and strict fatherly figure from my youth, but that is coupled with the memories of a dedicated father and husband, a caring doctor, and a proud grandfather. I feel lucky that my son Andrew will have memories of his Uncle Harold. It was Harold, as a family elder statesman, watching Andrew and the Axe cousins that are my precious memories. But I won't forget the man that was my friend.
Beautiful. Thank you, Peter. Harold's nephew, Jeffrey, is with us too. I want to invite Jeffrey to offer a few words and some remembrances.
My Uncle Harold did one of my favorite celebrity impersonations. It was Robert De Niro from Analyze This. He used to go around saying, you're good. And I feel like true words could not have been said about Harold himself. My childhood was chock full of wonderful memories with the Axe family. Having lost my mother, Vicky's sister Jackie, when I was only 7, being with Vicky and Harold and their amazing boys was always cherished time. Thinking about Uncle Harold, there are 2 themes that emerged for me. One was his sense of adventure, and his other was inclusivity. Harold and Vicky lived in Manhattan when I first used to visit them, that 33rd and 3rd address. And Pierre and I used to train up to New York on our own as little kids, which was really an adventure. And I used to spend time at Harold's Fifth Avenue doctor's office, always feeling really special. Adventures with Harold and the Axe family range from trips on his boat, moped, and tractor rides when they lived on the farm, time on Fire Island, a limo ride for Gabe's bar mitzvah, and of course, the Big Apple Circus. Uncle had a way of making even the ordinary feel extraordinary. And this was a testament to his adventurous spirit, something I've really tried to emulate in my life, and I see brilliantly in the lives of Judah, Noah, Gabe, and Dan. More than adventure, Uncle Harold always made me feel included. He made me feel welcome. Again, this was his nature. Now, sometimes he had a bit of a gruff exterior, but Uncle Harold's actions demonstrated his incredible generosity and love. I'm so thankful that I got to share so many important parts of my life with someone who cared so deeply for those around him. Uncle Harold and I didn't find ourselves often just the two of us, but I was fortunate enough to have an experience with just him and I, up thousands of feet as he took me on a plane ride. It was clear Uncle Harold loved to fly. I, on the other hand, was not a thrill seeker and am incredibly afraid of heights. So my willingness to go up illustrates how much I must have trusted Harold. As we flew in the clouds, I was really scared. That wasn't until I looked over at Harold, who was beaming with a smile, and it put me at ease. The adventure took an unexpected turn when Harold turned to me and asked if I wanted to fly, to take the controls. It meant more than I knew for him to offer this to me. Not only to include me, but to have the trust and faith in me when I certainly didn't have it myself. Uncle Harold made me feel safe. So I took the controls for a few minutes, and I was flying a plane. I'll never forget the many memories with Uncle Harold, but those moments in particular, high in the clouds, Uncle Harold smiling broadly, both of us flying high.
Thank you, Jeffrey. This afternoon, all four of Harold and Vicky's sons are now going to offer something from their hearts. We're going to begin with Dan offering a bit of his magical work through gifts of music and creativity. Dan.
So, congratulations on 40 years together. One more time. Harold. So, I wrote you a song. It's called Harold and Vicky's Song.
I get it. Inspired name. I get it. Spent a lot of time.
1, 2, 3. Harold and Vicky met because of singing. She came from Boston and he lived in Philly. That's where she'd go until the big show. Rehearsing with Robert Page, now I'm only setting the stage for the Harold and Vicky love story. Now, Harold saw Vicky across the way, so cute and pretty, but he didn't know what to say. 6 years went by, he was less shy. With a medical degree, he soon got down on one knee in the Harold and Vicky love story. Now back when they were dating, Jackie was the key. They each hosted Seder for their families to see. How beautiful and special was their true love meant to be. Take it down. Me? Okay. They got married, bought a little dog, lived in Columbus, but then soon they moved abroad. The Holy Land, picking grapefruits hand in hand. The lights were out, their dream no doubt to contribute grains of sand to the Harold and Vicky family. 33rd and 3rd, Judah was their first, oh boy. Then Noah, Gabriel, Daniel, 2 our family, what a joy! Now we're here to tell you, our mom and dad we love. Here's to September 5th, 1971. I'm talking about HAROLDVICKI. The Harold and Vicky love story. The Harold and Vicky family.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you for sharing that with all of us. We will hold that close. Want to invite Gabe now to have a moment and share his words and memories.
We were as prepared for this as we could have been. I'm so grateful for my mom and my brothers, and Ellie and Amira, and Marin and Nora, and Jillian and Gusty, for the time we spent together and conversations we've had the last several months, talking about this and supporting each other. As prepared as I was, it still hurts so much, and I'm so sad. My dad provided safety for me. A sense of safety that I felt wrapped around me so tightly all my life. I felt it as a child growing up when he literally held his arms around me every day. I felt it at my bar mitzvah when he referred to me as his hetrick. I felt his safety during my 2 years of chemotherapy. Still by my bedside.
Gabe, one sec. We're hearing some feedback. We just don't want to miss any of the words you're saying. Yeah, we're still hearing it. Do you want to just mute and unmute yourself for a minute and just see if that fixes it? Okay, try again. Any other device near you that's giving off a signal? We'll fix it.
Any better?
Yes, that's it.
Yes.
Beautiful. Great. Go ahead.
Should I start over? Where were we? I'll
Start from your bar mitzvah.
I felt it at my bar mitzvah when he referred to me as his hetrick. I felt his safety during my 2 years of chemotherapy when he and my mom stood by my bedside and wouldn't leave. Even after I left the house, living my adult life 3,000 miles away, I still feel his presence in everything I do. I hear him when I sneeze. It sounds just like him. He protected me, he supported me, he loved me. He was my teacher, a role model. He was my dad. Although now I feel as though I've lost a sense of that safety, everything he did to be my father has given me the strength I need to survive and thrive. And I'm so grateful he was my dad. Along with that safety came so much love. I know he loved me, and I know he was proud of me. And I know it because he never missed an opportunity to tell me. I miss hearing him say the words, "I'm so proud of you." Still, I hear it. I still hear him in my head every day telling me so, and it truly keeps me going. My dad was awesome. He was a doctor, he was a pilot, he was a farmer, he was a world traveler, a camper. He was really funny, and he was really smart. And he worked so hard his whole life. Although if you ever asked him, "How was work today?" he would say, "It wasn't work. I love my job and I love what I do. Because it makes me happy, it isn't work." And that was his advice and his encouragement. Do what makes you happy. I'm so grateful for those words. I work in music festivals. I go see live music for a living. I know it's crazy, but I love it and it makes me happy. And every time I walk into a festival site or go to a concert, I think of my dad And I know it's because of him that I'm there, doing what I love. One of the best moments of my career was getting to bring Mom and Dad to Dell Fest, which is a festival I work at and organize and I love. I finally had some time off from work to go see some music, and I went to find my parents. And I found them all right, front row at the main stage, dancing and smiling. In the business, we call that riding the rails. It made me so happy to see him having so much fun at my work. What I do provided that joy for him and my mom. It was a very proud moment in my life, and I think it was for him too. So I just want to end by saying, thanks, Dad. Thanks for my life. Thanks for my brothers. Thanks for marrying Mom, who loves and cares for us so deeply every day. Thanks for doing all you did to give us the best life possible. I love you.
I want to invite your brother Noah now to continue and offer words.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. I love you, Mom. I am so proud of you and of your strength. You have endured extraordinary and extraordinarily challenging circumstances with such grace and hardworking, positive, and patient energy. I love you. I love you, Judah. I love you, Gabe. I love you, Dan. I love you, Ellie. I love you, Amira. I love you, Maren and Nora. I love you, Jillian and Augustine. I knew and accepted that my dad was dying, but this has gotten harder the last couple of days as the memories trickle in from friends and family and of my own. I feel sad, and I am so grateful as I look around my house and at my own little family I helped create. I am filled with gratitude for all the ways my dad made me the man, the husband, the citizen, and the father I am. Thank you, Shirami, for hosting this incredible moment. Thank you all so much for your love and your support and for being here with us today. Okay, show of hands. Who here has ever had a hot pastrami sandwich from 2nd Avenue Deli? Let's see them. Oh yeah. How about good shawarma from New York City? Mm-hmm. Who here has ever had Donato's pizza? When I was a kid growing up in Ohio, my dad flew to New York every week to take care of his asthma and allergy patients. On rare and therefore special occasions, he'd bring home to his family our New York City favorites, pastrami or shawarma. Years later, growing up in Connecticut, my dad flew back to Ohio every week to take care of his Ohio patients, and on special occasions, he'd bring home to his family Donato's Pizza, our favorite Ohio delicacy. That was my dad, doctor, traveler, food lover, family man. The night he died, Jillian wrote something down. Can you say what you wrote to the, nice and loud?
I am sad that Grandpa is dead because he was a special doctor. I love Grandpa. Grandpa is special.
About being a doctor and about his 2 medical practices and the weekly commute back and forth, he would say, "It's not work, it's just who I am." Or he would say, "I don't work. I practice medicine and I'll keep practicing until I get it right." Well, I think we can all agree he got it right. He loved his patients and his patients loved him. Through his approach to providing excellent, compassionate, loving medical care, my dad taught me that what it means to be honest and ethically responsible. He was once visited by a very famous musician, seeking a prescription for something, and my dad said no, even though he'd you'd have made a lot of money, probably. I remember vividly my dad declaring no more dinners and gifts from drug reps because it wouldn't be right to be schmoozed into prescribing one medicine, knowing a cheaper or more effective medicine is what his patients needed. Like Jillian said, he was a special doctor, and he practiced so hard and worked so hard, or didn't work, because he wanted more than anything, it seemed, to give us, his sons, everything and anything we wanted and needed. Good education, toys, games, trips, fun, fun, fun. One time I wanted my pet monster, a stuffed toy monster. It's silly, but I said it. So we were on some road trip, all 6 of us in the big van, and we went from one toy store or big supermarket, Walmart type of a store to the next. We must have tried 3 or 4 or 5 or more stores. He wouldn't stop looking for it. He needed me to have it because I wanted it. He really wanted to make us happy. He also passionately and proudly loved his Judaism. Although confusing for me was his seemingly hypocritical approach, he loved the doable traditions, but seemed to dismiss the validity of the more abstract Bible stories and of the existence or even the necessity of a God. That's okay, I guess. His passion for science balanced out his Jewish tradition, God understanding. In any case, he did take very seriously the Shema and the Ve'ahavta prayers to teach his children. My dad taught me so much. I can picture vividly in my mind the learning how to ride a bike parking lot, and just as clearly his driving lessons. One time I made him spill his coffee. "Can't you drive more smoothly?" He had a short temper when he was stressed. I could go on and on about all the things he taught me. He made a big deal about returning the shopping cart to the store after the groceries were put away in the car. It was his metaphor for being responsible for what we use, to make sure we know other people will need that shopping cart. Be aware of the people around you. Look around. See how you can be helpful. Don't just stand there with your teeth in your mouth. My dad taught me how to hammer a nail and drive a screw. We built a barn for the farm animals, a whole barn. We built so many cool things together. I loved building things with my dad. I have his tools now. When my parents moved out of the big house, I took most of the tools, including some of his dad's tools, and I use them now. And so he's with me in the garage. It's amazing. Once I remember being a little kid and I was sanding something, I think, or maybe lining something up, and I said, "It's good enough. It's good enough." This was my most beloved lesson I got from my dad, the most important one, I think. When I said, "It's good enough," he paused and he turned to me and looked me in the eye and he said, "Good enough is not good enough." Right? Good enough isn't good enough. So when I worked on projects, when I auditioned for music school, when I prepared for camping trips and worked summer jobs, when I fell in love and traveled abroad, and when I studied my ass off with earplugs in my ears so I wouldn't be distracted, studying to become a pediatric cancer nurse. I skipped one. When I knew I needed to help my family when Gabe got cancer. When I sweep the floor and return my shopping cart. I do it all the way good, or better. Good enough isn't good enough. One last thing. One New Year's Eve, we were sharing New Year's resolutions. My dad said he didn't have any because he had nothing to improve about himself. At the time, I thought that was pretty arrogant. Years later, I think he meant He meant he was happy with the way things are. He was so proud of the family that he and our mom created. For a long time, when he could talk, and then when he could type, and then when he could hold up the pre-typed messages in his phone, whenever he was asked, "How are you?" he would say, "Couldn't be better." Thank you. Couldn't be better.
Thank you, Noah. So for words of final remembrances, we're going to invite Judah now to offer his stories.
Thank you. It was wonderful scrolling around, seeing everybody who came today. And I want to echo Noah's gratitude for everything for today. And I want to quickly echo what Lisa said way back when about my dad's letters. I hadn't thought about that recently, but he did write remarkable letters to me when I was at camp. Man of few spoken words, but he wrote beautifully. Share a few memories and virtues my dad instilled in me. Even though Dad was not a person who sought out social experiences, he was immensely hospitable when people visited. He ensured the house was spotless when people came over. When Gabe was on chemo and being home tutored, when the tutor arrived each week, my dad didn't ask, "Can I get you something to drink?" Rather, he had a pitcher of water and glasses waiting for them at their table. This was his way of being hospitable as a man of few words, and I believe it made people feel welcome and well taken care of. When I was around 8 or 10 or so, Dad started expressing a deep appreciation for Nike's slogan, "Just do it." He thought people, mostly his sons, should not think about whether or not to try out for the baseball team, worry about asking a girl to the dance, or express anxiety about taking the SAT and applying to college. Rather, just do it. This aligned with his sense of adventure, going on wild outings on the boat, taking us skiing and learning to ski in his 50s, biking down a volcano in Hawaii, flying us around the country. He maybe didn't just do everything he wanted in his life, but he just did a lot. And he taught me to just do it. As I reflected on this in the last few years, I realized this might have been his anti-anxiety prescription. I also didn't just do everything I wanted, but I just did a lot. And I'm thankful for the confidence my dad instilled in me. Let me describe a day in the life of Harold when I was in middle or high school on the farm in Ohio on a Saturday. The day started at 8 a.m. by hearing, "Judah!" being yelled up to me from the kitchen. I rolled out of bed, went down to sit with the family at a breakfast of 3 pancakes with 2 Sunnyside eggs on top and lots of syrup. Dad taught me to eat it by cutting bites around the yolk and then finishing it off with a bite with 3 pancakes underneath the sunny side up yolk, eaten all in one bite. Then we'd go outside and Dad had us put on gloves and either rake leaves or use the weed whacker on the edges of the grass. He'd throw in a math problem related to how many bags we needed per acre of leaves. When we finished, it was time to change the regular mower on the tractor to the brush hog to cut the really tall grass. He'd say, "Judah, go into the garage and get a Phillips screwdriver." And when I came back empty-handed 5 minutes later saying I couldn't find one, he'd scream a few expletives and go lay in bed for an hour. My brothers and I would play some basketball or ride our dirt bikes. Then Dad would emerge and ask if we wanted to work on the train set, and we'd meticulously construct a new post office with glue and set it next to the train track with little people waving as the train zoomed by. Then Dad would make us grilled cheese sandwiches, fully loaded with cheese, tomatoes, and onions, with huge unopened cans of tomato sauce carefully laid on each sandwich on the pan to keep the sandwich pressed together. After lunch, we'd take a dip in the pool. I could go on and on. At the same time, Dad spoiled us with delicious food, toys, games, and activities while teaching us to work hard and persevere through the many chores we did on the farm and beyond. Perhaps it is in this light that you'll appreciate a thought I had a few days ago. In his own insular way, Dad would have loved this challenging and scary time of coronavirus, not for all the horror it's causing people, but particularly when we were in high school, college, and early 20s, because it would mean he would have his family at home with him all day and all night, every day, without Mom going to choir rehearsals, bar mitzvahs, or board meetings, and without the brothers and I going out with our friends and going to those silly concerts night after night. Dad was happiest when he was with his family all together. In his final 2 years of life, I am grateful for 3 times I spent with Dad. First was going to Ohio to help him move out of his office and then drive him home to Connecticut in his little smart car. It was extremely emotional and tense, but I was happy to spend the time with him and help him transition into his new life of not working. The second was spending 4 days with Dad in Fishkill last summer when Mom went to a choral festival. I helped him eat, helped him put on his shoes, helped him in and out of the car, took him to a nice market on the Hudson River in Poughkeepsie. And finally, I am deeply grateful for the FaceTime that we had as a family with Dad just 5 hours before he died. I am so glad I got to say a few words to him, a way of saying goodbye. I'll miss you, Dad.
The Talmud teaches that words from the heart enter the heart. And today, we know that to be true more than ever, for all of the words today were from the heart, and they have entered our hearts. Holding words now, we turn to moments of song. I want to invite our colleague, Cantor Roz Barak, to unmute. First met Roz when Harold and she were living in Israel from 1973 to 1975. Vicki and Roz were singing in the Israeli National Opera. Vicki was in the choir, and Cantor Barak was a lead singer. Delighted when they connected 10 years later as cantorial students at Hebrew Union College. Cantor Barak will sing "For Good" from Wicked, which is an expression of all Harold has been to his beloved Vicki.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help them in return. Well, I don't know if I believe that's true, but I know I'm who I am today because I knew you. Like a carnival from orbit as it passes the sun, like a stream that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, I have been changed for good. it well may be that we will never meet again in this lifetime. So let me say before we part, so much of me is made of what I learned from you. You'll be with me like a handprint on my heart. And now whatever way our stories end, I know you have rewritten mine by being my friend. Like a ship blown from its mooring by a wind off the sea. Like a seed dropped by a skybird in a distant wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? But because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good. And just to clear the air, I ask forgiveness for the things I've done you blame me for. But then I guess we know there's blame to share, and none of it seems to matter anymore. Like a comet pulled from orbit as it passes the sun. Like a string that meets a boulder halfway through the wood. Who can say if I've been changed for the better? I do believe I have been changed for the better. And because I knew you, because I knew you, because I knew you, I have been changed for good.
Thank you, Cantor. Thank you. From one moment of music to another moment of creativity, now we turn. Vicki wishes to offer her deepest thanks to Judah and Dan for fulfilling her dream of a montage honoring the memory of Harold in pictures accompanied by Bette Midler singing "The Wind Beneath My Wings," a perfect expression of Harold's devoted support of Vicki as mom, cantor, and rabbi.
Must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on your face. You were content to let me shine, that's your way. You always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, while you were the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without
Pause for one moment of silent reflection. As we near the end of this memorial service, I want to invite two colleagues now to unmute, Cantor Deborah Kachko-Gray and Rabbi Cantor John Haddon. Vicki writes, Cantor Deborah Kachko-Gray has been a force in her life since they shared friendship and concerts in their neighboring Connecticut towns back in the 80s. Both the proud parents of 4 sons, they quelled when 2 of their children went to nursery school together and still cherish the picture with them tightly holding their lunchboxes on their first day of school. She will be reading We Will Remember Him antiphonally with Rabbi Cantor John Haddon, who has been a teacher, mentor, and friend to Vicki throughout the years. Vicki turned to him for leadership and comfort as he officiated for the funeral when her father died just weeks before her ordination as a cantor. We hear now this beautiful reading.
In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember him.
In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember him.
In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember him.
In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember him.
In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember him.
When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember him.
When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember him.
When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember him.
So long as we live, he too shall live, for he is now a part of us as we remember him. We love you.
Thank you both. In just a moment, I'll offer a few brief announcements. But before we do that, I want to invite everyone to at the bottom of their screen to open the chat box. And if you will, take a moment and let's fill the chat column with loving wishes, sweet memories, wishes of courage and love and compassion for the entire Axe family.
While you're doing that, I'm holding up the flag of the United States that was hand-delivered to me from Gallagher's funeral home in Stamford, because Harold was a veteran of the United States Air Force. Our first 2 years of marriage, he was a major in the Air Force. By virtue of the fact that he was a doctor, he walked in on his first day with major emblems, and we spent our first 2 years of marriage while he saw the patients at LaCorne Air Force Base just outside of Columbus, Ohio, purely coincidental to our ending up there 20 years later. And also while you're writing, I would again thank all of you for being with us today. The only person who's missing, of course, is Harold. And thank all of you who participated. And there's something to be said for sitting in our own homes. I am surrounded by Harold in every nook and cranny of this home, in every wall hanging, in every piece of furniture, in every breath of air. And I can't think of a more fitting memorial to him than what we are experiencing today, and I'm very grateful.
There are beautiful messages coming in, too fast to even read. Hugs and services, beautiful blessings of commemoration, love and strength people are sending. What a beautiful tribute. What a gift Harold's life has been to all of us. Keep your entire family in prayer. Vicki, you are such a strength. You were such a strength when my dad was ill and up until the end of his life. We learned so much about Harold. The true understanding of Harold comes from the extraordinary and profound. May Harold rest in peace. So many memories. So many ways. If you pause now for a moment, I'd like to share with you these brief announcements, and then of course you can continue to add your comments in the chat box. We'll just let it catch up and pause. Very good. Shiva in this COVID world is going to be observed in two ways. The first will be this way. Following the conclusion of this service, you may remain on your computers in the Zoom room. You will hear 10 minutes of music, and then anyone who would like will be invited to share remembrances of Harold. So that's the first way we're observing Shiva. Just remain on the line following the conclusion of the memorial service, and you can have a Shiva moment. Second, tomorrow, Thursday, from 1 to 3 p.m., Shiva will be observed again via Zoom. We will email you that link. If you've registered as you have for this funeral, we will email you the link, and you can participate again tomorrow from 1 to 3 via a Zoom Shiva. I'll also paste that link into the chat at the end of the service, but it will be sent to you.
It actually is sent in the email that had this link. It's in that same email.
Perfect. So you have it. Thank you very much, Susan. Next, donations in memory of Dr. Harold Axe may be sent to Congregation Cher Ami or the Association for Frontotemporal Degeneration, and finally to Caring Bridge. Those of you who wish and who are able may now rise for the memorial prayer. I'd like to invite our colleague, Cantor Judy Rowland, to unmute at this time. Vicki always describes Rabbi Cantor Judy Rowland as her best cantor friend. They served together on the board of the American Conference of Cantors in the 1990s, first as members, then as secretary, vice president, and president. First Vicki, then Judy succeeding her as president, both steering their organization through many significant accomplishments. Rabbi Cantor Rowland will recite El Malei Rachamim in English, followed by Hebrew chanted by Cantor Jack Chomsky. And just a word about Cantor Chomsky. Jack was the cantor at the Conservative Synagogue when Vicki served Temple Israel in Columbus, Ohio from 1988 to 1997. From the moment she arrived, he invited her to partner with them in never-ending concerts and programs. Together, they founded a Jewish community choir and prepared them along with the children's choir for a performance with Marvin Hamlisch. He is a major force of social justice and a dear friend to Vicki. First Cantor Rowland, then Cantor Chomsky.
Compassionate God, eternal spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Nehemiah ben Braina Venachum Cohen, Dr. Harold Axe, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find eternal presence in the shadow of your wings. And let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace. Together we say, Amen.
Chayna b'maromim Hamatzai menucha nechona tachat kanfei hashchina b'ma'alot kedoshim u'torim kezohar haraki amazirim et nishmat Nehemia bat Braina v'Nachum HaKohen shehalach le'olamo began Eden tehei menuchato Ana ba'al harachamim hasti reyu b'seite kinafecha le'yolamim Utzuror bitzuror hachayim et nishmato Adonai hu nachalato v'yanua b'shalom al mishkavo v'namar Amen.
We stay standing now as I invite the Axe family to recite words of Kaddish Yatom, Mourner's Kaddish.
Yitkadal, Yitkadash, Shemei Rabbah, Ve'alma Divrach Yirteh, Ve'amlich Malchuteh, V'chayechon V'yomechon, V'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael, Ba'agala V'zman Kariv, V'imru, Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shemei Rabbah Mevarach, Le'alam V'lamei Almaya, V'itbarach, V'ishtabach, V'itpa'ar, V'itramam, V'itnaseh, V'ithadar, V'italev, V'italal, Shemei D'Kudesha, Barichu, Ve'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, Tushbachata v'nechemata, Da'amiran be'ama v'imru, Amen. Yehi Shalom Rabba min Shemaya, V'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, v'imru, Amen. Oseh Shalom b'mramav, Hu ya'aseh Shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yoshvei Tevel, v'imru,
Amen.
Amen. May the one who makes peace over us, over all Israel and all humanity, make peace here. And let us say, Amen.
Amen.
Amen. If you're standing, you can be seated. This will conclude our memorial service. We thank everyone who gave of their heart and of their gifts today to make this so beautiful and meaningful. Shiva observance will continue here in this Zoom room, first by 10 minutes of music. May you all go from strength to strength. Amen.
you.